professional?
I believe I am. I have
In what way?
I have the tools in my tool belt from serving as a city councilman, dealing with the financial issues there, serving in my first term in the legislature, dealing with a lot of the workers' comp investment issues and other investment issues. I also led the charge on a giant pension issue in the first term of the legislature. And then in my second term, serving as the ranking member on this Financial Institutions and Securities Committee, pretty much most of my energy has been focused on dealing with these issues. At the same time, though, I know what I don't know. And I think one of the problems in public office is you have some folks who are very arrogant and think they know everything. And frankly, I will leverage the experience of people in the private sector who are duking it out every day, who know what it's like to sign the front of a paycheck. And I'll ask their advice, and I plan on putting together advisory boards to get their opinion and ask the advice of people. And I'm a big reader. I consider myself a policy wonk, and I do a lot of reading. I don't know if you ever read like Concord Coalition or some of the other partisan type organizations, Pew, that have a lot of good writings about the unfunded liabilities of our states and countries compared to our income tax receipts and how we're upside down economically. And I plan on leveraging a lot of the knowledge is out there from folks who are running businesses and who are economists and academics to make decisions in the Treasurer's office, and we'll surround myself with people like that. Another change I will make in the office is in the contracting process, ensuring that there's integrity in that process. One of the things I forgot to mention earlier is this multinational bank that got these 3 of the 4 largest contracts for the pension custodial business. They're under investigation for fraud, for defrauding the pension funds in California. The California Treasurer calls them crooks. The California Attorney General is investigating them for fraud. And
which bank was it?
It's called State Street Bank, and it's a little unusual, I think, to give $32 billion worth of pension money to a bank that's under investigation for pension fraud. And I think everyone in this room understands why that happened. His buddy was the lobbyist. Another good question to ask is that we haven't got an answer for. How did this bank in Boston find this 30-year-old immigration attorney in Columbus to be their lobbyist? The guy's never been a lobbyist in his life. He was obviously told by the Treasurer's office, you're gonna hire this lobbyist. And there's just a lack of integrity in the office.
Do you have any academic training in finances?
I have a law degree. So my bachelor's degree is from Ohio State. And
what'd you major in there?
Communications.
Communications.
I have a law degree from Case Western Reserve. And I do feel compared to Treasurer Boyce, I do have more experience dealing with these issues. He in his schooling did not, that I know of, focus on things in this discipline. And from my time working in public service, I'm very confident that I not only have the tools in my toolkit to do a good job, but I have more experience than Treasurer Boyce has, even after he's been in the office since he's been appointed 18 months ago. It's when you talk to folks on the Democratic side of the aisle and the Republican side of the aisle, both all of them are embarrassed when they see what's transpired in the Treasurer's office over the last 18 months. Not to beat a dead horse, but I just keep using the word unusual, to have all of the senior staff.
I'm surprised in the Treasurer's office, and I'm a bit naive about the Treasurer's office and the qualifications. As Mark says, it doesn't get a lot of press. If there isn't more financial requirements for somebody taking that job, I know a manager can hire good financial people, but it's surprising to me that given the amounts of money you're dealing with, that there isn't more financial requirements there. Thoughts on that?
In the Ohio Revised Code, there isn't an establishment of anything like that. I think it's an interesting concept. I think it's probably one worth looking into. I think it'd be good to look at other states and best practices and see how that's played out. Obviously, you raise the bar in one respect, but you also limit the pool in another respect. And but I think it's an interesting idea you bring up, and definitely one looking after. And obviously,
you guys are dealing with a lot of money.
A lot of zeros.
How did Kevin Boyce get that job?
He was appointed. So what happened was
who appointed?
The governor, after Cordray was elected Attorney General, there was a vacancy.
Yeah, he was appointed. He was appointed to the position. Yeah, he was appointed to the Columbus City Council, and then he was appointed to the Treasurer's office. And I think just there's a lack of leadership and management. Just to lose your entire senior staff in a year or more, a little more after.
So if we called some of these people up,
I encourage you to.
Pardon?
Yeah, I encourage you to.
Okay. Where do we get their phone number? Just
I can have the media person in my office provide that for you.
might like to talk to one or two of them. I got it, doesn't sound very good, but.
Sure, I'd be glad to do that. Just give me
Maybe
a call.
they give you some background off the record.
Well,
I
I
think
just wanna
if-
know if it's as bad as what you're saying.
If you're willing to talk off the record with them, I guarantee you, they can give you a lot of specifics. A lot of them, as I said, work in Democratic politics, so they're not going to go on the record because they want to have a job come next year. But if you're willing to talk off the record, I know they've already talked off the record with other publications.
If you're elected, how are you going to fill your staff?
Sure. So one of my passions at the State House has been trying to keep young people in the state of Ohio, create an environment where we can do a better job of reversing that brain drain, basically keeping the kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews of Ohioans here in our state. And first and foremost, I will make positions publicly available, throughout the state of Ohio, and I'll ensure that folks who work in finance have an opportunity to apply for them. But on the lines of bringing young people back, I think there's probably a lot of kids and grandkids and sons and daughters of Ohioans who may have gone off to work in the markets in Chicago or New York or some other city, who probably in the past few years with the downturn in the economy took a giant pay cut or even lost their job. And I think there's probably a pretty significant pool of Ohioans in their 30s and 40s, younger folks who left for what they thought was greener pastures, have been putting those tools in their tool belt working in finance. And I think there's a great opportunity through social media and other ways to identify these folks and say to them, come home, come apply for a job in the state treasurer's office. Come apply for a job at the pension funds in the state of Ohio. Take your experience that you've learned working in the markets and apply it to working in government service. And I'm realistic, and they're probably not going to come back here and work for 20 or 30 years, but if we can bring them back here for 3 or 4 years, hopefully their next job after the treasurer's office will be at some community bank here in Ohio, or at Huntington Bank or Key Bank or Fifth Third Bank, or working at a private equity fund or something here in Ohio. And in those years when they're here, they fall in love and find a church or a synagogue, a community, and we get a hook or multiple hooks in them, and those 5 years turn to 25 years, turn to 50 years of buying groceries and going to ball games and hopefully starting businesses and families of their own. And that's one of my visions of sort of combining my passion of integrity in the office, but also bringing young people back to the state. A little outside of the box. I don't know if it'll work, but I think it's worth trying. And I think we need to be thinking outside of the box, given the financial position we're in right now as a state. Something else that I think is integrally important is to have the governor's office and the treasurer's office, the speaker's office, and the president of the Senate all working together. And I want to accentuate the point that I've been a bipartisan leader at the State House. When I was in the majority in my first term, I wasn't a finger wagger or a finger poker. And now in the minority, I work well across party lines. And sometimes you can introduce a bunch of bills and get them passed that way. Other times you can work behind the scenes to advance things. And I've really tried my best to work across party lines to advance things that I think will create a better environment for A, educating young people in our state, and B, economic growth in our state. And
You seem pretty willing though to point your finger at your opponent.
I think there's a clear choice in this race,
Mm-hmm.
and that has nothing to do with partisanship. If it was a Republican, I'd be exposing those same things. It's not about Democrat or Republican. It's about integrity in office. And I just think there's a real lack of it in the current regime in the Treasurer's office.
Would you continue to bid out the contracts for the investment banks?
I want to look at what Treasurer Boyce has done. Obviously, in that process there were some holes in it because a bank that's under investigation for pension fraud got one of the contracts through the process. So I want to look at how he quote-unquote reformed it before making any decisions on that. But I think it's definitely something that would be on the table.
Are those contracts, do those contracts expire at the end of his term, or, do you have any?
I'd have to go back and look at them. There's a lot of contracts that go through the state treasurer's office, and custodial contracts and a lot of different investment work, and I'd have to go back and look at those specific ones to see the deadlines on them.